I'm Vinny Politan. Thanks so much for joining us here on Closing Arguments. And it is the question, why was that gun loaded? Seems like a simple question. But it seems like there would be no reason for it to be loaded, but it was. Why was there a live round in that weapon that was used by Alec Baldwin? Alec Baldwin shot and killed Helena Hutchins. Why was the gun loaded? You're shooting a movie. It's make-believe. It's fantasy time. I don't think anyone understands it, and I'm sure the family of Helena Hutchins doesn't understand it. How could that happen? I mean, movies are filmed around the clock. For years, we've been shooting movies, westerns, cop shows, mysteries, whatever it is, war movies. It's so fundamental to what should and should not happen on a movie set. But somehow, some way, the gun that Alec Baldwin had in his hand, the gun that he fired, had a live round in it. Well, there may be an answer to all of this. And this comes from The Wrap. The CEO of The Wrap, Sharon Waxman, was on with Don Lemon on CNN talking about some reporting that they have. And again, they're the only ones that are reporting this at this time. But it sounds like a potential plausible explanation, not an excuse, not a justification, but an explanation as to how a live round would get into a gun that is supposed to be used as a prop on a movie set of a Western. Take a look.
Yes, we learned today and reported exclusively that the gun that Alec Baldwin used to tragically, accidentally shoot Helena Hutchins had been used earlier in the day for target practice with when a number of crew members, there's a lot of downtime on sets, you probably know this, and there's this pastime that crew members sometimes do. It's called plinking, and they go out into the rural areas and they shoot at beer cans. This is with live ammunition. We learned that this happened the morning of the day that Helena Hutchins was killed in the early afternoon. So what happened between the time those guns came back with live ammunition in them, and they should have been checked, obviously, and then there was there has been a lot of information in the search warrants that have been filed about what happened to the guns, and that there was a break for a few minutes for lunch, and then they came back. And was the gun checked again? Unclear. Before the first AD called it what he said, a cold gun, meaning it could not fire anything. And it was handed to Alec Baldwin, and then he discharged it.
I heard a word in there. It's called plinking. They're apparently plinking. New to me, as I've said every night on this show. Not a gun guy, okay? Everything I know about guns I've learned from covering trials for years and years and years. But let's put up a description of what plinking is. It's an informal target shooting done at non-traditional targets like tin cans, glass bottles, wood blocks. I've got an example for you. I've got some footage of someone plinking. You're just out there shooting stuff. And I guess if you hit the target, maybe it makes the sound plink. I don't know. But this raises the question. You're shooting a movie. You're using props that are part of the movie to then go out and put live rounds in and go plinking? I mean, okay, maybe you can do it safely, and maybe it's been done safely, but why on earth would you ever do that? And if you did do that, wouldn't you make like extra sure, double, triple, quadruple check to make sure you're just using a gun to shoot, beer cans out in the desert during downtime? Doesn't make sense to me why this would happen. And there's a little bit of anger that I have because Helena Hutchins is a mom, she's a wife. She had a life. She was living her dream. She's not. It shouldn't have happened. Let me bring in our special guest joining us tonight from Salt Lake City, Utah, movie set consultant and former Salt Lake City police officer Rob Joseph is with us. Rob, great to have you on the program tonight. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Let me start first with this downtime plinking. You're filming a movie, then you're taking things that are going to be used in the movie, and then you're going out for target practice? If this is true, again, the rap is the only ones reporting it. We don't have individual confirmation of this, but it's that, to me, that sounds like that would be kind of crazy to do if you're on a movie set.
You have prop guns and you're working on a movie with active shooting and those types of things, and you certainly don't want to mix live rounds with blanks, making a gun hot. It sounds to me like the armorer was inexperienced and that protocols were either ignored or they just didn't have a protocol in place.
Rob, again, I've never been on the movie set, and I don't understand how this works, but my common sense tells me that if something is going to be used in the movie, then, I mean, these movies, yeah, it's a low-budget movie, but a low-budget movie has a budget. And shouldn't they have a budget for, okay, these are the guns that will be used for the movie. You all want to go plinking during your downtime, bring your own guns.
I don't know necessarily that that's the issue. I think the issue is the prop master and the armorer not following a protocol. So I can tell you from law enforcement background, we do what is called dry fire, where you're just practicing the trigger squeeze, the feel of the gun. And sometimes you walk away from that gun and then come back to it, pick it up, and resume your dry fire. But out of instinct, officers will load that gun and walk away from it. And when they return, they forget the gun's loaded and they blow their TV up. I've been in plenty of police stations where there are bullet holes in the locker room. So it's not really unusual, but I can tell you from a position of being a consultant, working with the prop master directly, I worked on the Crow's Salvation, which was the movie that followed Brandon Lee's tragic death from an accidental firing on set. And what took place there was the producers would call for firearms on the set, and the prop master would come out and they would announce it that firearms were on the set. They would then call for me, and together we would inspect the guns and clear them to ensure that those guns were not loaded. And then the next step that we would take is we would personally go to the talent and show them the gun, manipulate the gun with them, show them the gun was cleared, and then we'd provide that weapon to the talent. And that clearly didn't happen here. And I don't, for the life of me, understand why an assistant director would fill that role and hand a loaded firearm to the talent, in this case, ALEC Baldwin.
So
I've never had this experience before.
Let me ask you about the protocol. Where does that come from? Who's in charge on a movie set when it's time to say, okay, this is the protocol we are going to follow?
It's the prop master. And that prop master works in conjunction with the armorer who controls the firearm. But it's nothing that's I've never seen it before where a director or a producer is like taking the gun and handing it to the talent and saying, hey, this gun's clear or cold. So I've worked on 2 Baldwin movies over the years with Billy Baldwin and Stephen Baldwin. And they're shoot 'em up police type shows. And I was responsible for dealing with the firearms. There were a lot of firearms on set. We never had any problems.
I mean, what you described seems to me to make a ton of sense and would be industry standard. Let me ask you, though, about the dynamics on a movie set. You've got directors, assistant directors, and you've got prop masters. Is there a pecking order of who's under who? Can a director or an assistant director override a prop master, or kind of, muscle their way and because people look at it, oh, that's the person who's in charge?
Well, they might try, but the union's pretty strong. And the prop master is the one that's ultimately in charge of the firearm. So a director could ask for it, or a producer could direct that happens. But ultimately, the prop master has the union on his side, and they're pretty well regulated. So if I was a prop master and somebody was trying to do something out of protocol, I would basically tell them that it wasn't going to happen.
Now, we've also had some reports and that there were some problems perhaps with the union there, and there may have been a walkout. Everything's not clear yet. But do you think that's perhaps where there was a problem here, that you didn't have potentially the union strength there to enforce these protocols?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the situation is. I understand that, and this is only what I've heard, that there was some accidental discharges of firearm on set, which resulted in a few of the crew members protesting and walking off the job. And if that's true, then we see a systematic problem and a breakdown in protocol on the set, which resulted in this tragic jet, which should never have happened.
Rob Joseph, incredible insight. Thanks so much. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is important that people should know about what happened?
Well, anytime anyone hands somebody a firearm, I think it's their responsibility to check that firearm. I believe I watched a little video by Will Smith on Bad Boys, and they had a bunch of guns on display on a table, and one actor picked up a gun, and he kind of motioned around with the gun across the torso of Will Smith. And I saw Will Smith immediately knock that gun down, rack the gun open, drop the magazine, check to see if it was unloaded. Then he put the magazine in, handed it to the other actor, looked right into the camera, and said, "Gun safety." And I think anybody working around guns need to understand that guns are always loaded, or at least that's how you should perceive them. And you never point them at anything that you're not willing to destroy or a person that you're not willing to kill. And that's the mindset that you need to have.
Absolutely. Rob Joseph, movie set consultant, former Salt Lake City police officer. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right, we've got some more facts associated with what happened. What's the law? Let me show you. I showed you last night what the law is in New Mexico. Manslaughter, the unlawful killing of a human being without malice. Involuntary manslaughter consists of manslaughter committed in the commission of an unlawful act not amounting to a felony, or, this is a big or in the commission of a lawful act which might produce death in an unlawful manner, or without due caution and circumspection. Let's take a look at the key words from the statute. Involuntary manslaughter consists of a lawful act which might produce death without due caution and circumspection. Who could be on the hook for involuntary manslaughter? Criminal liability in this case. Let's introduce tonight's think tank. Joining us in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former president of the Georgia Association of Criminal Defense Attorneys, Lawrence Zimmerman is with us. In Seattle, Washington, trial attorney Ann Bremner. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor, law professor at Texas Southern University, Michael Sterling. Great to have you all here. Lawrence, which of the people involved in all this needs to call one of you three tonight?
Well, unfortunately, it's probably not going to be ALEC Baldwin, but I wish he'd call me. I think most likely it seems like the director who handed the gun to Baldwin and the people who were using it for target practice have some real criminal culpability. I think Baldwin could say, you know, he handed me the gun. I was told it was cold. There's no bullets in it, and I was using it for rehearsal. I think he's fairly safe, in my opinion. I think for him, it's an accident. I think the other people have criminal culpability. But ALEC Baldwin has the most money, I'm sure, so I'd love for him to call me.
Ann Bremner.
You know, I think I agree, but I think that Baldwin does have ability. Look at that statute in New Mexico. I mean, it's, you know, without caution, you're looking at basically just pure negligence. And like your expert just said, you don't point a a loaded gun or unloaded gun at somebody. You got it, or Will Smith. Make sure any gun is considered to be loaded. You know, when we were prosecutors, we had a flex cuff that went into a gun that we used it in the courtroom. So you were sure there was no way, and the ammunition was completely separate. You didn't send it back to the jury room. I'm sure it's still the case now. But you don't point a gun at somebody. You assume every gun is loaded.
Michael Sterling, your thoughts about the criminal aspect of all this. The civil, you know, that, to me, that's a done deal. Don't need to even talk about it. But criminal aspect here.
You know, Benny, if you listen to Officer Joseph, your previous guest, and what he communicated to us, I think ALEC Baldwin does potentially have some criminal culpability. He said something very important, which was that, you know, when you are handed a gun, it's your responsibility to ensure that that gun does not have anything in it that could, you know, potentially cause the death of someone. And if ALEC Baldwin, we don't know what his training had been prior to, you know, handling these prop guns. I had the opportunity when I was a federal prosecutor to get some training from diplomatic security service agents. I've trained with, you know, local police departments in gun safety when I've gone shooting. And, you know, they tell you not only do you empty the magazine, but you also, you know, ensure that the chamber doesn't have one that's ready to fire when you're dealing with the gun. So you pull the chamber back to make sure it doesn't have any ammunition in it. And if he received that training and failed to properly inspect the gun based on what the statute is in New Mexico, there could be some potential criminal culpability for Mr. Baldwin.
All right. Legal Think Tank with us for the whole hour. When we come back, big case down in southeast Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia. Ahmaud Arbery shot and killed after 3 men in 2 pickup trucks are following him. We'll have a live report